So we already know about the tragic events during the Raccoon City outbreak, with the rampage of all the zombies and monsters taking over the whole city. This of course was only an after effect from the events that ensued in Resident Evil 1, there the Spencer Mansion estate and the surrounding Arklay Mountains being the initial breeding ground of the T-Virus. But even after knowing all that, the spread of the T-Virus was actually much deeper than we thought, because all the crazy events that we've seen in the early part of the Resident Evil franchise could be boiled down to one night, a night in which one of the co-founders of Umbrella would be betrayed, starting the domino effect that we would see in the first 3 games of this franchise. So the questions need to be answered is, who exactly is this co-founder of Umbrella, why was he betrayed, and what role did he have in the early part of the T-Virus outbreak? All these questions will be answered as we look into the story of Dr. James Marcus.
First general manager, Dr. James Marcus.
This is the early part of the 1900s, when a younger James Marcus was known to have already graduated from a university. Around this time, he would become friends with Edward Ashford and Oswell E. Spencer. The trio was very much fascinated in the field of virology, a trait that would be the catalyst in their later formation of the Umbrella Corporation. But before that important event, a small series of books would catch the eye of these 3 young men. A series of books that was written by a man named Henry Travis, a work that spanned over 35 years, detailing the animals, peoples, plants, and cultures in Africa. Though at first not much notoriety was made from the series of books, though within its pages, information was revealed that would pique the interest of the soon-to-become founders of the Umbrella Corporation. This exact detail would be the recount of the Ndipia warriors of the Kajiju region of Africa, known to have consumed a plant that, if surviving after ingestion, the warriors would be granted superhuman-like powers. Of course, Spencer and Marcus wanted to know more about this recount of a flower blessing those who consumed it, so an expedition would be set up to investigate into this matter. James Marcus at this time would be accompanied by a close associate of his, Brandon Bailey. Here he summarizes a small recount of his adventure in Africa with Dr. James Marcus and the discovery of the Progenitor Virus. December 4th, 1966, Mr. Spencer once spoke of a flower called the Stairway to the Sun. Supposedly, this flower would give the person who consumed it incredible abilities. Everyone thought it was nothing more than a rumor or a legend that Mr. Spencer was telling us, but later research would prove us wrong. The first person to recognize the validity of that story was my teacher, Dr. James Marcus. He hypothesized that a virus, hetero unknown, might exist that could alter DNA. That man was so perspicacious. His hypothesis turned out to be correct. The virus discovered in that flower was labeled Progenitor. For 3 months in Africa, we worked diligently, fretting over results and staved off attacks from the Ndipia. After such time, our efforts were finally rewarded. Even Dr. Marcus, who until yesterday looked exhausted, was in good spirits. He wants to return home as soon as possible to delve deeper into his research. February 12, 1967, we've hit a metaphorical brick wall. We brought the Progenitor flower back from Africa and attempted to cultivate it here. The initial culture samples of the Progenitor virus have not shown DNA altering characteristics. We cultivated the flower to mass produce the Progenitor virus. At first, everything proceeded smoothly. The plants were strong and grew quickly. In a short amount of time, they flowered. But here's when a major problem surfaced. The flower did not contain the Progenitor virus. Perhaps the environment they've grown triggers the development of the virus. This matter must be investigated further. March 23rd, we've made no progress. We've tried cultivating the flower under different conditions, but with no luck in triggering the development of the virus itself. Thus far, we've tried changing the soil, water, temperature, and light exposure, all with no success. I got into a heated debate with Dr. Marcus about the direction this research was taking. During that debate, Mr. Spencer interjected some foolhardy notion of starting a company. Without the Progenitor virus, there is no point in starting a company. Does he not see that? It's all pointless. Though at the latter end of the file, not much progress would be mentioned. Also, Spencer at that time already mentioned of creating a company. Though even with these setbacks, more research and experiments would be conducted by Dr. Marcus. This included his experimentation with an E. coli cell, which he killed off purposefully, but then later on would inject with a sample from the Progenitor Virus, resulting into the complete revival of the E. coli cell. This revelation by Dr. Marcus would be the final catalyst in Spencer's plan of finally starting the Umbrella Corporation. Though unwilling at first, Dr. Marcus eventually gave in to the proposal of being a founding member. This of course was helped with the coercion of Spencer, letting Marcus continue his research into the Progenitor Virus. And to help with that direction, Marcus was also assigned to a training facility in the Arkley Mountains, giving him the perfect setting to continue his work with Progenitor.
This is Dr. Marcus. Please be silent as we reflect upon our company motto. Obedience breeds discipline. Discipline breeds unity. Unity breeds power. Power is life.
Who are you?
This now officially is the birth of the Umbrella Corporation in 1967, which here on out, Dr. Marcus was less interested in the grand scheme of business inside of Umbrella, with most of his remaining life dedicated to his research with the Progenitor Virus. And also he was assigned as the director of this new Umbrella training facility, which the sole purpose of this new branch was to attract and gather talented scientists to Umbrella, recruiting the best out of the best from universities everywhere. Though the following next 10 years, Dr. Marcus did not hold any kind of interest in most of the students, considering them not up to par to his standards. And the matter of fact, he didn't hesitate to even infect some of the students during his research. A file can be found that substantiates this fact. What is it that Director Marcus is researching all the time? And what's with his weird interest in leeches? Interest seems more like love at times. Rumor has it that there's something dangerous about those leeches. It is true that when Dennis just touched one, he got ill with a fever. Again today, there were those horrible moans beyond that door. Let sleeping dogs. No way I'll go near them, even if the director tells me. I no want to end up like Dennis, that poor bastard. Scratching and scratching makes me itch just watching him. Must maybe go if can, but how? Dennis gone, I go. Hungry, help.
What could have done this?
They must have been used as test subjects in Marcus's research. He must have kept messing around with the mother virus.
Though Dr. Marcus seemed most of the students unworthy, in the class of 1977 and 1978, 10 years into the Umbrella training facility's life, two noteworthy students would catch the eye of Dr. Marcus, them being Dr. Albert Wesker and Dr. William Birkin, the two showing a lot of potential and dedication to the research and experiments, this being a keen trait that Dr. Marcus respected, taking both doctors under his wing and having them be competitive with each other. Also around the same time, a huge breakthrough would be discovered by Dr. Marcus, which on one count of splicing leech DNA with the Progenitor Virus, resulting into the creation of a strain that can have military and weapons purposes, naming this new discovery the T-Virus, which T for Tyrant, the same T-Virus that would cause the downfall of Raccoon City and later the Umbrella Corporation as a whole. So upon this new discovery, Dr. Marcus would continue his work with his leeches and the T-Virus, leading up to the next decade and until his first death.
10 years ago, Dr. Marcus was murdered by Umbrella. You helped them, didn't you?
So the year is 1988. 10 years has passed since Dr. Marcus first discovered the results from his leeches and T-Virus. Though the research at the time has concluded that most who were infected with the T-Virus would die or show necrotic tendencies, explaining the earlier monsters that we saw in the series and why most were very low IQ monsters. Examples are the mindless zombies and their necrosis of their brain, and later on the early versions of tyrants, hence the proto-tyrant and its many defects. Also, in the greater part of the last decade, Dr. Marcus has essentially isolated himself from everyone, all except his trusted proteges, William Birkin and Albert Wesker. And during this last decade, Dr. Marcus has expanded his research further, with him not only using leeches, but moving up the animal kingdom, using different kinds of species, amphibians, plants, and insects, and eventually concentrated on experimentation on humans. Because remember, Dr. Marcus was already known to infect the students in the Umbrella training facility years back, but this time around, he really honed in on the human experimentation, with most of the test subjects inoculated with the virus, then proceeded to be tortured using many different devices that we found in Resident Evil 0. And to make matters worse, Dr. Marcus even used children in his experiments, placing them in gas chambers and such. Though with all the atrocities he's committed, this year of 1988 would be the year that karma would come back to bite him, because in the last couple of decades into the Umbrella Corporation's life, the three co-founders slowly but surely started to turn against each other, with the former friends each having their own set goals of their future plans for Umbrella, and each conducting their own research into the Progenitor Virus. This competitive nature eventually caused a rift between the three of them, with the first of all was Edward Ashford, due to an accident that Spencer orchestrated, leaving only Dr. Marcus in the way of Spencer's plan of full control of Umbrella, though the discovery of the T-Virus by Dr. Marcus would be a great leverage for him to control the company, with his plans to share his research with the Umbrella Executive Board. This of course was known to Spencer, keeping tabs on James Marcus and his research, with the two founders being very paranoid of each other. But to Dr. James Marcus's dismay, all would be crashing down when the betrayal of Spencer, Umbrella, and his two trusted students ensued.
Welcome, young ones. So glad you have joined the party. You are the guests of honor. After all, it's your wake.
Who are you? Dr. Marcus?
No, you can't be. What's going on?
10 years ago, Spencer had me assassinated.
Time to die, Doctor.
I will take over your research.
Wesker. Birkin.
However, something wondrous happened. It took the T-Virus inside of my queen years to procreate my new life.
I live. Now I will have my revenge on Umbrella, and the world will burn in an inferno of hate.
You'll pay for what you've done.
We'll see which one of us is gonna die.
So the first time after watching that cutscene, I was still confused on how he was able to be revived, but further research into it, I find out that during the assassination, the queen leech he was experimenting on was dumped near his body. This queen leech eventually started to consume his brain and hippocampus. This in turn allowed the queen leech to absorb the memories of Dr. Marcus, essentially reviving his consciousness, and the queen leech taking on his persona, which we can say that this new being here is the amalgamation of the combined identities of both the Queen Leech and Dr. Marcus. But to end this video, let's cover the last couple of files that essentially summarizes the events that span Dr. Marcus's life and research. December 4th, we finally did it, the new virus. We have called it the Progenitor. I want to carry it back and start detailed investigations immediately. March 23rd, Spencer says he's going to start a company. Well, I don't care as long as I can continue my research into Progenitor. He can do what he likes. August 19th, Spencer keeps asking me to be the director of this new training facility. Maybe it's because of the business, but he's becoming intolerably pushy. But maybe I can turn this to my advantage. I need a special facility to properly explore all this virus's secrets. A place where no one will get in the way. November 30th. Damn that Spencer. He came to complain to me again today. He thinks of Progenitor as nothing more than a money-spinning tool. Fool, but if his influence continues to grow, it can only be bad for my research. If I'm to properly develop Progenitor, I must strengthen my position too. September 19th. At last, I've discovered a way to build a new virus type with Progenitor as a base. Mixing it with leech DNA was the breakthrough I needed. I called this new virus T for Tyrant. October 23rd. It's no good. I can't hope for real progress by experimenting on mere rodents. Only humans are proper mammalian subjects for these experiments. Otherwise, I'll never make any real progress. November 15th. Someone seems to suspect something about my experiments, but perhaps it's just my imagination. Well, if anyone does get too close, they find themselves unexpectedly assisting in my research. January 13th. At last, they are ready. My wonderful leeches. Those of low intelligence, they will never have the privilege of tasting this sense of joy and satisfaction. Now finally, I can move against Spencer. Soon I will control everything. January 31st. The device I set to protect my work have been disturbed. It appears that someone came looking for T and the leeches. Fool, no doubt the work of Spencer's group. February 11th. Today I again found evidence of tampering around the entrance to the lab. If that's what they're after, I must find a suitable way to deal with them. Perhaps I should have William and Albert smoke out the pest. Those two are the only ones I trust, apart from my beloved leeches of course. But Spencer, it wouldn't end there, would it? I will announce T at the next director's meeting and collect my just rewards. Anyways, what did you guys think about Dr. James Marcus? And where does he rank compared to the other explaining evil characters that we've covered so far? Also, if you guys want more episodes like these, then please feel free to check this video here for more explaining evil episodes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and this is DeVuH, and I'll see you guys on the next video.